In our daily lives, we are sometimes blinkered by what we know in terms of standardized approaches to our problems. This is when we need a fresh perspective and look at issues and scenarios from a totally different lens. And I think we've been doing that for the past couple of sessions. This is what the signature address of the Rewards Conference is all about. For this session, I would like to welcome on stage a gentleman with possibly one of the most diverse career profiles spanning over 25 years. He spent 11 years as an officer of the Indian Armed Forces. After leaving the Indian Army, he joined the Mahindra Group in 1998 and helped set up Mahindra United World College. Over the next 10 years, he led various companies before being handpicked by the Government of India to create and head the National Intelligence Grid. He currently serves as the Group President, Risk, Security and New Ventures of Reliance Industries Limited, a distinguished fellow at the Observer Research Foundation and the author of a bestseller, Every Man's War. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to invite on stage Captain Raghu Raman.
Good evening. You can hear me at the back, right? Yeah, okay. End of the day, Firstly, thanks a ton for this great opportunity, and I was glad I was able to listen to Anant. And Biju is a very good friend of mine, and his behavioral presentations, whenever he makes to me, it kind of tells me why I was doing something that I did yesterday. But it's not I still haven't got around to why I'm doing what I'm doing today. But anyway. The short session that I wanted to do today was obviously from my background. As you heard from my bio, I did have a fairly lucky exposure to 3 different worlds. My first decade plus was in the Indian Armed Forces, which, as many of you might be able to assess, is a very autocratic style of management. My second stint was in the private sector, where a large part of the motivation, pepping up and getting alignment is based on material tools. And my third stint was in the bureaucracy in the government, where to get anything done, it's like pushing a string. It's not like pulling a string. You need consensus for anything. You want to go and take a leak, uske liye committee baithega. They will decide. Jana chahiye, abhi thak gaye the thodi der pehle. Why do you want to go again? So it's a very consensus-driven kind of an organization. And many of my friends ask me that out of these 3 careers, which one was the most difficult one? And honestly, I haven't got the answer to that one, but I can tell you the easiest one was the army. Because in the army, at least you knew which side the enemy is. In the remaining 2 careers, it's very difficult to figure out. And as as Anand pointed out, many times in life when you don't have a choice, life is much easier. So I still remember one of my commanding officers in about 92, 93 calling me and telling me, "Congratulations, Raghu." I said, "Sir, for what?" "You have just volunteered to go to Siachen Glacier." So what I want to do is to just share with you a few anecdotes from another life. And I genuinely believe that management principles, the principles of leading troops, leading men, leading women, leading organizations remain by and large the same. And since I was asked by Hewitt to speak more about those experiences, I'm limiting my talk to my experiences in the armed forces, not just mine, but all the stories I'm telling you are not my stories, they're stories of others, but they still have a lot of significance. And I found, and I'll towards the end of it, I'd like to share with you some management lessons which I have found stand in good stead, no matter which career, where you are. The title of this talk, I tried to put it as Individualism Within Uniformity. Now that sounds contrarian, because if you are treating each person as an individual, how can you have uniformity in the organization? So let me take you to an organization that you're all familiar with, at least you know it's come into a lot of public attention these days, which is the Indian Armed Forces. The Indian Army, for example, consists of more than 14 lakh troops, and they come from all parts of this country. I don't know how many of you know this, we have close to about 70 odd different regiments, and as some of you may know, the Indian Army is grouped on caste composition. So you have the Jat, Gurkha, Bihar, Rajput, Rajrif, Ladakh Scouts, Garhwal Rifles, Jacklight, Jackref, so it's from all over the country. And each regiment, you see some of them here, and I deliberately put this picture, their dresses are different, the way they address each other are different, their war cries are different, their signs of greetings are different. In Assam Rifle, you will greet each other as Tagda Rao Sahab. In Sikh unit, it will be Naba Akal, Jai Mata Di. Each one will have a difference of food, the way they behave. Management styles are different. For example, if you see the regiment on the right-hand side, down corner, that is the Sikh Light Infantry Regiment, and Sikhlai, it's known as Sikhlai. And a Sikhlai, if you are an officer who doesn't use Ma Bhen, you are supposed to be a wimp. Because that's the way you have to sort of assert your, I don't want to say it obviously because it's also being recorded, but the way you would speak to your, and that's the way they would also, sort of talk to you. It's with a lot of abuses, and it's part of the sort of lingo. You try to do that in a Madras battalion, you will have a huge problem. The guy will start crying. He'll come to you, "Sahab, mere ko gali diya usne. Kya gali diya tumko? Nahi sahab, mere ko gali diya. Kyun gali diya tumko? Sahab, mere ko sawal nahi diya, koi baat nahi. Sapati nahi aate, koi sutiya kaise bol diya sahab?" Now, for that he'll start crying. So you have to change your management style, and all of that, all differences, everything is different. But when the army commander says 45 degrees right, there is no debate in anyone's mind that this is the direction the entire Indian Army will align. And that's the reason why the Indian Armed Forces is able to work, even if you pull them out from their units, group them together, regroup them, they are able to work for tasks that they have not been trained for. The Army doesn't get trained for rescuing people from floods or building bridges in Commonwealth or running the trains when the railways goes on strike or pulling a child out of a borewell when a child falls inside it. The Army doesn't get training for that. But in each one of these tasks, they're able to get deployed, not just in India, by the way. Even in UN missions, the armed forces of various different countries are able to work together because at the operational level, they have one common vocabulary. So the first point I want to stress to you is just because it's a large organization, it does not mean that a large organization cannot have diversity within itself. They can have individuality, they can have idiosyncrasies, but when it comes to an operational vocabulary, there is one single vocabulary. So much so that certain words, for example, in army orders, repeat is never said on radio telephony. So if I make a mistake in my communication, I have to say, "I say again." I cannot use the word repeat. I can't say "I repeat." The reason for that is the word repeat is reserved for the artillery fire. Because whenever the artillery observer gives a target and orders a round to be fired or a salvo to be fired, his next order will be repeat. And the heat of war, he cannot give a long instruction, and for that reason the word repeat is reserved for artillery firing only. Now that's the degree to which you can actually achieve alignment even in a very, very diverse organization. And we are talking about one of the largest and the most diverse organizations in this country. And if they can do it, I'm sure organizations which are a few hundred strong or a few thousand strong or a few thousand hundred strong can also achieve the same sort of an alignment without sacrificing the individuality of its people, its leaders, its subunits, and its various different cultures. My second point, and I saw this and I was very interested in watching this presentation on rewards and benefits and schemes, but how do combat leaders take troops into certain death at times without ESOP, pay hike, employee of the month, any one of these jamborees, right? Because at the end of the day, I don't know how many of you know this, that as an army officer, there is no material tool that I have. I can't increase the pay of my best soldier, the man who throws himself on a grenade to save the lives of 5 or 6 comrades inside the same bunker. I can't increase his salary by 100 rupees, not possible. I can't increase his pension by 50 rupees, it's not possible. Similarly, I can't take away the variable pay or something like that of a person who is shamming. There is no material lever at all. There is nothing material. And yet, in operations, as you're aware, leaders lead troops, and in some of these battles, you know the math. Like in mountain warfare, in Kargil, and I will talk about that in a little while, or in Siachen for that example, for that matter, when there is a post that's up out there which may be just occupied by maybe 10 troops of the enemy, the battle will be launched by at least 100 and 150 troops. Because it's only then that about 10 to 20 people will reach on top. That's the kind of attrition you have in mountain warfare, close to about 70 to 80% attrition. And by the way, this is not like HR attrition, this is permanent attrition. He's not going to come back, right? And yet, when troops will line up in that line, they will look to their left, they will look to their right, they will know that by the end of this day today, out of the 100 of us, only 20, 15 will see the sunset today. And the rest will be dead, or they will be wounded, they will be incapacitated, and yet they will line up and they will charge. How do leaders do that? I want to talk a little bit about that. And that's not about benefits which are material. There are benefits, of course. There is glory, there is a sense of purpose, there is going down in the history as a legend. And I want to talk to you about a couple of such legends. And I chose these stories specifically because I want to remind all of us that we are, by the way, in the month of June and July, which is when the Kargil war took place about 19 years ago. And actually, the Op Vijay, Kargil operation started on 6th of June. That was 2 days ago. And 26th of July, which will be about a month from now, is when we celebrate the Vijay Divas, which is supposed to be the victory in Kargil. So I thought these two stories, I will sort of use that as the backdrop. But before I do that, I want to touch upon what is it that human behavior usually talks about choosing the comfortable vis-a-vis the hard. If you're given a choice, as you rightly said, I want the $100 now instead of waiting for it for, But we are not even talking about money here. I want to show you something very interesting. Do you see this insignia here? You see that insignia in the middle, which is the winged dagger. And you see what's written below that? Here? Sorry. Do you see that? Those in Hindi can read Hindi. Anyone? What does that mean? There are certain units in the Indian Armed Forces who are given this coveted dagger. It's called the Balidan. They wear it on their right-hand shoulder, and these are special forces. These are those units who will be given tasks where the attrition rates will go more than 70 to 80%, which means when a job is given to them and the 100 men are going into that job, it is expected that only about 20 or 30 will come back. That's the casualty rate. And yet, this is one of the most coveted badges in the Indian Armed Forces. Thousands of soldiers apply for the membership into the elite special forces. It's one of the most grueling training. I can't even begin to describe to you what the commando training, it's called 30 days of hell and 30 days of night. It's crazy. They don't let you sleep for more than a couple of hours a night. You don't know when your next assignment is going to be, where it is going to be. So you might go to sleep at 2 o'clock at night and you might be allowed to sleep till 4 o'clock, or you may go to sleep at 2 o'clock at night and at 2:02 the instructors will come with batons and they'll start hitting the windows and wake you up. So you will not know what's going to happen with your life in the next 5 minutes. And despite this trauma, despite casualties that happen in training, yet troops aspire to go into the elite squads. For what? To wear this one badge and to wear a maroon beret. Because when they wear the maroon beret, they become part of an elite force of just maybe about 10,000 out of a total Indian Army strength of 14 lakh soldiers. And when they will walk into an officer's mess, when they'll walk into any gathering, people will move aside, they will elbow each other and look at him and say, he's from the special forces. There is always a need, a desire in human beings to become special. Now, if we can find models within our organization to make people feel special, you can actually make that a very hard and arduous task. It doesn't have to be easy. Matter of fact, easy is never special. So we can design structures, we can design cultures, we can design programs where hard is what makes you special, not easy. Are you with me so far? Yes? No? Sleeping? Huh? Good. This is the story of an officer who, Sudhir Walia, you can see him, and you know what the maroon beret means, right? I just told you. So he was part of the special forces. He was officer in 9 para, but that's really not the story I want to tell you about. He had a very interesting career. So this officer was commissioned into 3rd Jat in 1988. He went to Sri Lanka. He was part of the Sri Lanka peacekeeping forces. He had spent 2 stints in Kashmir, and he had been awarded Sena Medal twice. Getting once is rare. He was awarded twice. And he was the ADC to General Malik, who was the chief of the army staff when the Kargil war broke out. And he's sitting in Luton's Delhi. He's the ADC. So ADC is like an executive assistant to the chief. I mean, for a captain, for a young captain, that's as high as it gets. Imagine you are appointed as a EA to a global CEO, and that's the position you are in. But 9 Para, the unit that he belonged to, 9 Para Commandos, that unit had moved into Kargil war, and he told the chief that I can't remain as your ADC when my troops, when my unit is going into war. And he sought permission from the chief, resigning from the ADC's post, and went and joined his unit in Kargil. He went straight into operations without any acclimatization. So those of you who have ever been to Leh, Ladakh, anyone been to Leh, Ladakh? You remember what they tell you there? For the first few days, you have to acclimatize yourself. And by the way, Leh, Ladakh is about 15,000 feet. These troops were fighting in 18,000 feet, which is approximately the height of Khardungla. And he landed straight in there, and he fought in the Kargil war, gave up the luxury, the comfort, the career progression, all the material benefits that he was getting now. He was getting it already, gave all that up to be part of his team, to be part of the group, because he could not bear the shame that when his unit is in combat, he is sitting in Delhi. He just couldn't take that, and he went into the operations. Unfortunately, though he survived the Kargil war, he was again in an operation in Kupwara district a few years later, where he died, and he died winning the Ashok Chakra posthumously. It's an operation that has gone down in the history of the Indian Army, where 20 militants were killed by a very, very small team, and this man was responsible for killing 8 of them personally. The second story I want to tell you is about this young lad. Anybody recognizes him? Anyone? Yeah, that's Vikram Batra. He was 24 years old when he died. He was commissioned into 13 Jackrif, and the story is not about what he did in Kargil. The story is about the way he did it. So he was in Kargil, and he was tasked to capture this peak that you see over here, point 5140, which was one of the most pivotal point. It was considered to be the turning point of the Kargil war, because anyone got hold of this peak, then from there they would be able to pivot the entire battle theater. And this point was so strategic that 2 simultaneous attacks were ordered on it from 2 different spurs. The spurs were, in certain areas, the gradient was 80 degrees. 80 degrees is like 10 degrees short of near vertical. And they were operating in extremely hostile conditions with enemy firing. The enemy could see them. It was a daylight attack. And the 2 attacks, ironically, or I would say with the great spirit of our Indian Armed Forces, were led by 2 lieutenants. So attacks which were supposed to be company-led attacks, where majors are supposed to be leading, were not being led by majors, were not being led by captains. They were being led by 2 down. SS Jamwal and Vikram Batra, they both launched the assault, and they captured this peak. They had about 8 casualties in the Pakistani side. 8 soldiers were killed, and amongst the Indian army, there were some casualties, including Vikram Batra, who was wounded. And that happened in around 20th of June. The battle was still progressing when they captured this peak. The Chief of Army Staff, General Malik, at that point, called him up to congratulate him personally. Now imagine getting a call from the chief directly, and he asked him a question, "How are you feeling?" And you know what his answer was? Anybody? Ye dil mange more. I want more. Now imagine an officer who is 24 years old, who has already accomplished an operation for which he has got a citation for the Paramveer Chakra, the highest award that can be given to an Indian soldier. It's 1 step below Bharat Ratna, just 1 step below Bharat Ratna and 1 step above Padma Vibhushan. At the age of 24, he's already got that citation, but he is not satisfied with that. He says, "Ye dil mange more." And then he is sent into the next operation to rescue another officer, and to clear out another peak, and it is in that operation that he dies. So it's not about getting the objective that he's already got the highest accolade that the armed forces can give him, but he still takes one more attempt and goes one step above that. This is the spirit that can be, by the way, all these narratives that I've told you, I also want to give you an underscoring of it, that we don't import our officers and men from Denmark, Norway, Japan. We take them exactly from the same diaspora from where corporate India recruits. It's exactly the same people. And that is why I strongly believe in this basic teaching that is taught to leaders in the armed forces from the time that they are young cadets, that there are no good units and no bad units. There are no good troops, no bad troops. Troops are troops. There are only good officers and bad officers. There are only good leaders and bad leaders. So many times in the corporate world, when I'm talking to, in reviews or in one of those, basically reviews kind of things, when people talk about my assembly line is bad, my sales team is bad, my distributors are bad, my product is bad, my territory is bad, sometimes I'm tempted to remind them that perhaps they should be looking at some other place where something else is bad. Because, as I said, troops are troops. There is no, by the way, the troops that you recruit and your competitors recruit is exactly from the same pool. The value proposition that you put and the value proposition that your competitor puts is more or less the same. Yeah, the pay slip will have some lines on top and below and some, ACB, DCB, some other jargon will change. But by and large, the value proposition that you give and your competitors give is exactly the same. So if troops are exactly the same, the only difference is made by the leaders, because there are no good units or bad units. There are only good officers and bad officers. The last piece I want to share with you is actually a sort of a leadership mantra that I have followed for many, many years. Tried to follow or tried to seek wisdom in whenever I have been in dilemma or I have sought for some depth of leadership. This is, in the Indian Military Academy, at the end of the training, after the training is over, 18 months of grueling training, and it's very, very tough. Those of you who have friends or relatives, they'll tell you that it's a little bit tough. I mean, it's not the art of living. So it has but at the end of the 18 months, that instructor who used to put a boot on the back of my neck and make me do push-ups, that instructor stands in front of you in ramrod attention and salutes you, because now you have become an officer. And when these officers sit for their last lesson, it's the closing address, they have an NCO, a non-commissioned officer, or a JCO. Just to put that in context for those of you who don't understand the Army, in the Army, like the corporate sector, you have the management cadre, which is the lieutenants, captains, majors, lieutenant colonels, brigadiers, generals, and so on. And you have the other ranks, which is the Sipahi, Lance Naik, Havaldar, Naib Subedar, Major. So it's a bit like factory, the management cadre and the ground workers who work their way up. The last lesson is given by one of the soldiers who represents the troops that these officers are going to lead. And that soldier comes in front of these officers, the newly minted officers, and shares with them this advice that I want to share with you. I have read many books on management. I've attended many courses, Harvard, the Yales, and all of that, but I have yet to find more distilled management principles in these 3 pages. Each word is liquid gold. Listen to it carefully. You don't need to record it. If you just imbibe it, you will not forget this lesson. And each time you are caught in a leadership dilemma, if you just refer to these fundamental principles, I can assure you, you will never go wrong. I feel a tinge of regret that I'm not young enough to be sitting out there as one of you. You have so many years of excitement and challenges to look forward to. So many of those years are now behind me. Soon, you will meet your platoon havaldars, your havaldar majors, your quartermasters, your naib subedars, your troops, your men. What do we expect from you as officers, commanders, and leaders. We expect of you unassailable personal integrity and the highest of morals. We expect you to maintain the highest state of personal appearance. We expect you to be fair, to be consistent, to have dignity but not aloofness, to have compassion and understanding, and to treat each soldier as an individual with individual problems. And we expect you to have courage, the courage of your convictions, the courage to stand up and be counted, to defend your men when they have followed your orders, even when your orders were in error, to assume the blame when you are wrong. We expect you to stick out your chin and say, this man is not qualified and he will be promoted only over my dead body. Gentlemen, I implore you, do not promote a man because he is a nice guy. Do not promote a man because he's got a wife and 5 kids. Do not promote a man because you are under pressure to promote him. If he cannot do justice to his grade, do not do him and us the injustice of advancing him in grade. Because when you leave him or he leaves you, he will become somebody else's problem. Gentlemen, we expect you to have courage in the face of danger. Many of you will soon be in operations where there are no safe rear echelons. During your tour, opportunities will arise for you to display courage and leadership. Opportunities may also arise from which you may emerge as heroes. Listen to the definition of a hero very, very carefully. He says a hero is an individual who is faced with an undesirable situation and uses means at his disposal to make that situation slightly more bearable. That's it. That's all your troops expect from you for you to become a hero in their eyes. A hero is an individual faced with an undesirable situation, uses means at his disposal to make that situation slightly more bearable. You do that, and as far as your troops are concerned, you are a hero or a heroine. Do not display recklessness and expose yourself and your men to unnecessary risks that will only reduce their normal chances of survival. If you do that, they will lose faith in your judgment. Now, gentlemen, you know what we expect from you. What can you expect from us? From a few of us, you can expect a prove yourself attitude. From a few of us who had the opportunity to become officers but didn't have the guts, the motivation, or the wherewithal to accept that challenge, you can expect a little bit of resentment. And from a few of us old-timers, you can expect tolerance. But from most of us, you can expect loyalty to your position, devotion to our cause, admiration for your honest effort, courage to match your courage, guts to match your guts, endurance to match your endurance, motivation to match your motivation, and a desire for achievement to match your desire for achievement. We will not shiver in the cold if you shiver with us. We will not mind the heat if you will sweat with us. And when our cigarettes are gone, we don't mind quitting smoking provided your cigarettes are gone. And then he says something here which I think is the most powerful line of prose that I've ever read in my life. He says, and if the mission requires, we will storm the very gates of hell right behind you. They are very clear about 3 things, ladies and gentlemen. If the mission requires, not because you're some general's son and you're trying to outlive his shadow, not because you got a girl back home and you promised her a medal, not because your global MD is coming and you want to show him how much of a Chatak Charlie you are in front of him, not because of that. If the mission requires, we will storm the very gates of hell right behind you. They are very clear who has to go in first. Gentlemen, you don't accept us. We were here before you. We accept you. And when we accept you, we don't make a big song and dance about it. We don't do this employee of the month, screensaver of the month and all that bullshit. In some bada khana, in some party, we'll lift up a glass of rum, look you in the eye and we'll say, Saab tu theek hai, you're okay. That's our way of indicating that we have accepted you. And remember one thing, no Havaldar, no NCO was awarded his fetes without showing something to somebody at some time at some place. So if your Havaldar shies away from you, if he is slow to assume responsibility, if he seems to disown initiative, then maybe sometime not too long ago, he was shot down when he was right. Someone failed to support him. Someone failed to hold his hand when he was doing the right thing. Old wounds heal slowly, old scars fade even more slowly. The letters appointing you as officers in the Indian Army appoint you to command. No letter, no insignia, no rank, no calling card, no letters behind your name, no cabin, no board can appoint you as leaders. Because leadership is an intangible thing. Leadership is something that you develop within yourselves each and every day. So be you lieutenants or be you generals, we are the guys you've got to convince, and we will meet you more than halfway. You're a leader in an organization where we have served for so many years, and you will help us fulfill a mission that we have cherished for so many years. I wish you all the very best of luck and adventure and challenges in the wonderful years that lie ahead of you. May God bless you all. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That's the end of it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I'll not even try to mention any takeaways from that session. I'll open the floor to any questions that the audience may have.
Hi, my name is Nikhil Arora, and I'm from Hindustan Coca-Cola Beverages. Slightly personal question, sir. Why did you leave?
A presentation, so we won't go there.
Okay, I have a backup question. Great examples that you gave, but I think, and this is my opinion, the key difference with the armed forces and the corporate world of today is that in the armed forces, it somehow, and maybe that needs another 3 hours, but that somehow comes from within. In the corporate world, we always talk about making it come from within, giving something from outside, some stimulus, some attraction, some pull from outside to make it come from within. Don't you think that's a key difference, or do you think that's something that the corporate world has missed?
Honestly, I have to tell you this, that a lot of people believe that the Indian Army is motivated in patriotism, nationalism, national flag. Please sit down. That's not really true. And not just Indian Army, I had the unique privilege to also serve in the United Nations as a peacekeeper. And I've interacted with armies of other countries as well. I think soldiers go into battle and soldiers fight and soldiers do whatever we talked about for their immediate comrades, for the person who's leading them, and for their pantans izzat. That's it. That's the visibility of our soldiers who come from a small village. They don't know what the grand design of the Prime Minister of this country is, what is the Vision 2020. They don't really care about that. They don't even comprehend it. They don't even have perhaps the construct of this nation, because a boy who comes from Kerala has never seen the mountains, a boy who comes from Srinagar doesn't know what the sea looks like. Their world is created inside that environment where they come into a regiment, there's a regimentation, there is a sense of honor, sense of pride. And I don't think this is a unique thing only to the army. Organization, institutions can create it, NGOs which have done it, I think the job of every leader is to create a shared reality which is global, which is aspirational, and which is hard, not easy, which is hard, which is almost impossible. If you're able to create that shared reality of conquering a dragon which is sufficiently large, then I think that sense of belonging and that sense of motivation, the sense of going beyond your capability, every individual wants to break away from the limits that have been imposed on them by their own thinking, by the society, by their parents, we all want to break. You want to break out of that. You are dreaming of the day that you will shed all of this, you will go away somewhere, you will learn something there, you will come back, and you will conquer all your demons. That's what you believe. All of us believe that on a daily basis. Now, if a leader can just gather that raw energy and give it a direction, I think it's very possible in any organization. I don't think there are external or internal features that we need to be looked at. The principles of leadership remain exactly the same. That's my belief.
So, hello.
Yes.
Sorry, I don't have any question. All I want to say is thank you so much for this
Thank you
wonderful
very much.
speech.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Yes, so I just wanted to add to what you were saying because I can relate to it. I've been in the army for 6 years and have worked in Kupara and in Dras, Kargil areas, so I'm pretty familiar with that.
Which unit are you?
One Ladakh Scout regiment is being given
Battle
President's
Honored.
colors this month, so I'm very
nice.
proud
I
of
hope
that.
you're going for that.
I hope I can. But yes, I can relate to that and to the point that the gentleman was making. There is an impetus inside, but it's not necessary that you have to be in the army for that. I've come out and I've been out from the army for the past 8-9 years now, and I've experienced it in my corporate life as well. That I don't necessarily have to be a leader to do that. I have to be just a compatriot, a peer to do that. I've seen my colleagues waiting for me when they didn't have anything to do because I was sitting late and I was working till midnight. They sat with me. I sat with them. We worked 24 hours at times.
So I just want to amplify on that point, and this is again not necessarily as you were talking about some conquering Kargil or something. I'll give you a very simple experiment and a simple project that is happening in a corporate. I don't want to sort of name it at this moment because I don't want to make it a. Most of our organizations have got housekeeping people, right? These housekeeping staff, you must have seen them. They're the guys who come and clean up your offices way before you arrive. So if you arrive at 9 o'clock and think, oh my God, it's too early to reach, imagine these guys, because most of these people also don't stay in that area. They travel from Vasai 3 hours. They probably don't even see their homes in sunlight throughout the month, or except on Saturday, Sunday, because they leave home at something like 5 o'clock, reach back home at 9. So they've only seen their homes in dark. And most of you know that these people are earning about 7,000 to 8,000 rupees. That's their salary. And 8,000 rupees is very tough to manage in, because no matter what frugal your lifestyle is, the dengue vaccine still costs the same, milk costs the same, every other commodity costs the same, whether you earn 80 lakhs or you earn 8,000 rupees. So it's a very hard life for them. And usually the security in any organization has got a very adversarial relationship against the housekeeping. And I'll tell you why. So these housekeeping guys come in the morning and they clean up the place, and the security guy stands there to make sure that nothing is getting stolen and nobody is, so it's an adversarial relationship, a supervisory relationship, and supervisory by definition has a bias towards adversarial relationship. Now this organization has started something called a Streetwise project. What it does is it reaches out to various young people within the organization and says, we have designed a syllabus. And what is the syllabus? How to write a resume, how to use MS Word, how to set up a Facebook page, how to conduct yourself in an interview, how to, basic life skills, how to manage your finances, how to understand your rights, your benefits, or whatever. And you have to participate in that for only 2 hours in a month on a weekend. So you can choose any weekend and participate, provide your sweat equity, if you want to call it that, for a couple of hours every weekend. You can choose, okay, I'll teach public speaking, I will teach how to, whatever you're passionate about or whatever you're trying to learn. What happens is this organization organizes these classes during weekend when there is idle capacity. The conference rooms are empty, the computers are lying vacant, it's idle capacity. And the housekeeping people are invited first come, first serve. Whoever comes can attend. And the organization's own leaders, usually junior leaders, but sometimes some seniors also participate in it, they conduct the classes. Are you with me so far? Right? Now what is happening here is you are taking an 8,000 rupee person and equipping him to become a Cafe Coffee Day or a Starbucks employee at 15,000 rupees. You're taking a Cafe Coffee Day person and moving him in maybe to a Ola. And you are doing an orbit shift. So for a person who earns 8,000 rupees, it is an orbit shift to earn 15,000. You can't even imagine the orbit shift. His children will start going to English medium schools. They'll get better nutrition. It is truly a pole vault for that person. What is the organization losing? Nothing. It's idle capacity. And what are the instructors gaining? What are the young leaders who are conducting these classes, what are they gaining? They are getting practice in public speaking because you got a very low risk audience. They are listening to you with awe. You are rehearsing your skills. It's a win-win-win. Now this project does not require some funding. It doesn't require some board permission. It doesn't. We can create dragons if we want to create dragons. It just requires imagineering leaders. Or we can create excuses. That doesn't even require imagineering, it doesn't even require leaders. So I think the choice is something that we have to make, that as leaders, do we use the resources? Remember what he said about a hero. Means at your disposal. Whatever means you have at your disposal. Imagineer a solution around that, and I think we can still create that sense of purpose, that sense of, oh, by the way, now when a cell phone or something gets lost, the classes are suspended because you have to look for it. Now, in whose interest is it in the housekeeping staff to whack a cell phone or something like that? Because they know that the bigger piece goes away. So instead of an adversarial relationship, you have created an organization that is far more aligned to each other and far more humane organization. And increasingly when I hear these, these phrases of smart cities and smart campuses, I think before we start building cities that are smart or cities or campuses that are smart, I think we have to start building offices, organizations, cities that have heart. Smart can come later. Smart will come later if we start building organizations which have heart. And for heart, I think we have ample opportunities, especially in a country like India, where just by giving 2 hours of our time, we can actually create an orbit shift in our ecosystem. This is just one example I gave you. There are hundreds. If anyone is interested in that, please get in touch with me. I'll demonstrate to you so many other experiments where leaders are being created literally on a daily basis. Thanks. Thanks.